Okay, so I was in the L. Ron Hubbard office in Fitzroy Street in London with Bob Keenan, and he gets a phone call from Miscavige and gets off the phone and comes to me and he says, COB says that you must go back to St. Hill and do mest work. And by this time, I had gotten enough of these, you know, you're never coming back, you're never seeing your wife, you're never this, you're never that, you're dead meat, blah, 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 that I went, okay, well, if I go back to St. Hill, that'll be it. I'll never get out. So before Keenan could think, I said, okay, I'll go catch the train. And I picked up my briefcase, which was the only thing I had, and I walked out the door. And I walked to the tube station, which is just near the LRH office in Fitzroy Street. And I got on the tube, and instead of going to Victoria Station, I went to, I think, Leicester Square, and I got off on Leicester Square and vanished. I actually walked around London for like 3 or 4 days, staying in a different hotel, or actually I didn't even stay in hotels, I stayed in like rooming houses, because I didn't really have any money. And I had 2 Blackberries, and the Blackberries had like, you know, 20 messages an hour on them from Keenan, you know, please, I need to talk to you, come back, please, we can sort this out, and I just ignored all. I turned them off. I would only turn them on like once a day. I would turn them on to read what was on there, I'd turn them off again, and then I'd move to somewhere else. And I didn't want to use those Blackberries because I was afraid that they were traceable, so I went to an internet cafe and tried to use the precursor of Skype, where, you know, you could call international calls for 10 cents a minute. They have all these things up and down Tottenham Court Road in London of these little internet cafes. And I tried calling Ronnie and Biddy Miscavige, because they had been my longest friends, you know, the godparents of my kids, that, you know, I'd known them forever. And I couldn't get through, and all I could do was leave a message, and I didn't really have a way to be called back, so after I'd spent a day trying to get a hold of them, I called Tom DeVocht. And I sort of explained to him briefly what had happened. I said, you know, can I come to Orlando? He said, yeah, sure. So the next day I got on the tube and I went to Heathrow, and I didn't want to book a flight in advance. I wanted to walk up and buy the ticket and then get on the plane. So I went to Heathrow, and like an idiot didn't realize that the only direct flights to Orlando went out of Gatwick. And they all leave around noon, so I was too late to get to Gatwick, so then I had to fly via DC. So I figured that there'd be someone at the DC airport, but there wasn't. I guess they just couldn't find the ticket information fast enough at that point, because I literally bought a ticket at the very last minute and got on this flight, and then I didn't even tell Tom where I was coming from until I got to DC, and then I called him and said, I'm getting on a plane now to Orlando, meet me at the airport. So, you know, I spent like 4 days in London just doing nothing, like going to the art galleries, and because London is my favorite city in the world, so I have no problem spending time there. I can wander around, do absolutely nothing there, and enjoy it tremendously.
And at that point, when you had made the decision to leave and were getting over to see this friend in Orlando, what did you think were going to be the most difficult challenges you faced getting out and staying out?
I didn't think there was anything difficult about staying out. I don't know. I guess
I mean, you had no money, you had no job, you had a family.
I guess my wife and kids were like the biggest, but I pretty much had resigned myself by that point to knowing what was going to happen. Like, I'd been thinking about this for some time. This wasn't a new, just suddenly on the spur of the moment. It might have seemed like it was on the spur of the moment to Bob Keenan, but I'd considered it for some time and figured that this was like, I mean, it was hopeless. There was nowhere to go. There wasn't anything to do. I mean, there was no future. Everything. I was bad and responsible for everything bad that had ever happened. And my wife was being told about what a piece of shit I was, and my kids were being told what a piece of shit I was, and it was like a losing proposition to stay around. In fact, I didn't even try communicating with anybody until I went to actually go and stay with Ronnie and Biddy. Because after I'd been with Tom for a few weeks, I finally spoke to Ronnie and I said, "Hey man, I tried and called you from London." He said, "Jesus Christ, I didn't know it was you." He said, "All I could hear on the answering machine was..." So then I went up and I stayed with them, and because Biddy had been so close to my wife, Kathy, she said, we got to get Kathy. You got to be able to speak to Kathy. We got to get Kathy. We got to get Kathy. So I sent an email and a letter and said, I want to talk to her and I want to see her. In fact, I'd like her to come out here where I can see her without anybody else participating in the conversation. And the result of that was a handwritten note from her that said basically, "Fuck you," not basically, literally those words, "Fuck you. I should have put your ethics in long ago, blah 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 blah. The divorce papers will be sent and I'll tell the kids." So that was the end of that, until I saw her down at this doctor's office down here when her and 6 other people showed up to try and gently persuade me in the error of my ways.